President Biden predicting that there will be an invasion of Ukraine by Russia in the next several days. Now, remember earlier in this week, we were told that, it could be midweek this week. That time passed.
Your sense that this is going to happen now?
Yes. My sense this will happen in the next several days.
The Ukrainians, which is pretty bold if you think about a country that's got 190,000 Russian troops surrounding them, think the U.S. has bungled this entire operation.
That's what the Ukrainians have said. That's what Zelensky has said.
Are we on the brink of seeing a full-scale war in Europe?
They keep saying that bloody war is around the corner. I have to say that if you really believe that a bloody war is around the corner, then you should be putting sanctions of all types to avoid the war. And we have yet to see Nord Stream 2 sanctions or SWIFT banking sanctions.
He's saying if they go in, we will put in crippling sanctions. He's allowing Putin to rattle the saber. And our response is, I haven't read the letter yet.
The reality is what Joe Biden is saying is, I need to see blood in Ukraine before we're going to put sanctions on. He's saying, if you go in and start a war, then we'll do sanctions. What have we come to?
Kamala Harris is in Europe at the Munich conference, which has been expanded because of the crisis and the potential conflict that the U.S. is saying is imminent. We're basically the only country saying that. The UK a little bit, but that's it. And you've also got our Secretary of State. He makes an emergency stop at the UN in New York yesterday at the Security Council.
Now, I'm mindful that some have called into question our information, recalling previous instances where intelligence ultimately did not bear out. But let me be clear. I am here today not to start a war, but to prevent one.
So this is interesting rhetoric, but we're not doing anything preemptively other than saying it's going to be bad if he does this. If he starts a war in Ukraine, it's going to be bad. We're going to be really tough.
If you really believe that and you wanted to prevent a war, people getting killed, cities being major, international cities being overrun, that you would put in really tough sanctions. It might hurt everybody. It might hurt everybody's economy short term.
Now, the number two in our embassy was thrown out by the Russians.
Yes, it's a little bit sad. Is that our economy's taking some hits. If they put those sanctions in now, without bloodshed, and it will impact our economy. It will make some things more expensive. Now, that's short term if it prevents a conflict. But they think, I think the Biden administration is saying we need bloodshed for the American people to understand why we need these sanctions.
I'm afraid that
is a sick way of approaching it.
If that is the way they're approaching it, which it sounds like it is, that's why they keep saying it's going to happen, then we'll do something. We're trying to prevent bloodshed.
It's going to be bloody. There's blood coming. But guess what? We're not trying to do the things to avoid it. Put sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. It's pretty basic.
It's also true that Putin has already succeeded. Because if part of it was it was the concern that Ukraine was going to, join NATO, right, Harry? That was the Russian, if they join NATO, what does it mean? Well, here's the problem. NATO is now so divided and so split, it's almost rendered not meaningless, but it certainly has been greatly weakened.
It's greatly weakened because NATO has undermined itself because the nation states that make up NATO refuse to fully commit to NATO, and they then want to rely on the United States to engage in saber rattling to save them.
Sanctions work to prevent the conflict. If you do the sanctions after the conflict, the bloodshed has occurred, the country has fallen, the Russians have put in their puppet state. So if you even believe Biden that this is days away in any of the coming few days, the sanctions would just be a punishment. And then we'd be punishing ourselves with those sanctions, by the way.